Shannon Green. She is our UCF insider as well, right here on Open Mic. You can check out all of Shannon's coverage of the Knights, not the Golden Knights, as they were calling them up in Michigan. That was the old name. It is, in fact, I think they called them the Fighting Knights up in Michigan. Shannon, how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing, Mike?
Doing good. You can read all of Shannon's stuff at OrlandoSentinel.com. You can also hit her up on Twitter at OS Knights. Shannon, I want to ask you this question, all right, because Scott Frost very encouraged with his team despite the 37-point loss to Michigan. As someone who covers UCF closer than anybody, were you as encouraged as Scott Frost was?
Well, I think that when you consider the opponent, you obviously judge the game differently. This is definitely a game where you didn't judge it by the outcome, because surely everyone knew that UCF was going to have an awful time trying to win that game. But when you look at the particular aspects of the game, the nuances of the game, there were certain areas of improvement that I do agree that fans could be excited about. Obviously, the run game seemed to be working pretty well. They rushed for 275 net yards. And that was despite the fact that the offensive line wasn't particularly great in that game. So to still be able to rush and not have a great offensive line performance, I think you would see some kind of positives out of that. On the flip side of that, though, obviously the special teams did not perform up to standard. There were several mistakes there. The defense, while I thought they played a solid game, they did give up a lot of big plays, which led to Michigan outscoring them 51-14. So it's a matter of perspective. You could look at it from, this is a team that lost every game last year. What things can you find to say they improved? Or you can say, oh, they lost by 37 points, and not really look at what happened in the game. So it all depends on where you're coming from. But I definitely, as someone who covered this team last season and saw every single loss last year and what happened and how they would mentally give in, I can tell you they definitely have improved.
Okay, I asked Adrian Killens after the game, hey, you had one carry for 87 yards and a touchdown. Maybe you should get more than one carry. I was really kind of joking when I asked him that, but are we going to see more of him?
Well, he did move up on the depth chart this week. So he is now they have co-starters with Jawan Hamilton and Dontravius Wilson, because some of the plays they run, they can actually use two running backs. So they are considered the co-starters. And then Adrian Killens moved up over Taj McGowan. So I definitely think they want to get him more touches. They want to utilize his speed, because as you saw, Mike, I mean, the kid is fast. If he beats you on an angle, it's over. And he knows that, too, because he's very confident in his talking about his speed. He's like, nobody's going to catch me. If I break an angle, I'm gone. So he won the 100-meter dash, this season in high school for. So he really is one of the fastest kids in Florida, and he's very confident in his speed.
Okay, we know Scott Frost doesn't like to talk about injuries. Justin Holman pulls up lame after a 35-yard scamper during the Michigan game. We don't see him again. I know you're just guessing, but what's your educated guess as to whether Justin Holman will play against Maryland?
I don't even want to do that, to be honest, because I don't know. I really don't know, and I don't want to speculate on what he could or couldn't do. Because, we did talk about that it could have been a hamstring injury, and the range for
we don't even know that. We don't even know if it's that, do we?
We don't. So we don't know anything. Scott Frost will not talk about anything regarding to injury, so we really have no idea. But what I was going to say was, if it was a hamstring injury, which we don't know, the range on that could be, you could have just tweaked it and come back the next game. It could be 4 weeks. I don't know. The range is too wide for how long you could be out on an injury like that. But again, we don't even know what the injury was.
Okay, I talked to you a little bit about this at the game on Saturday, and I was on the radio yesterday on the afternoon show with Shot Doctor and Brandon Kravitz. And Kravitz, who went to UCF, he's not really a UCF fan. He's like a lot of UCF fans. He went there, but he doesn't go to the games. All right. So Kravitz was talking about Justin Holman. All right. And he goes, he said something to the effect of, you can just tell Justin Holman isn't a Scott Frost type quarterback. And I'm going, how can you tell that after a game and a half. The negativity that some UCF fans have toward Justin Holman, I don't understand it. It's inexplicable to me. Can you explain it to me?
You know, I was talking to another reporter about this yesterday before the press conference started, and I think there's a general thought that this is what happens when you follow a great quarterback. You know, fans saw Blake Bortles right before Justin Holman. You know, he led them to a Fiesta Bowl championship. And, you know, he's in the NFL, plays for the Jaguars, and they're doing great, by the way, even though they lost to Green Bay.
That's a good point.
And I think that when you're following someone that's done so much for the program, I mean, took him to the highest heights we've ever seen in terms of a bowl game championship, I think it was just going to be hard for Justin to match that. You know, and it is unfair. I think people judge him by that standard, and I also think they forget that, you know, Justin, you know, that offensive line has been young for the last couple of years, which is ironic, but you know, they haven't quite found their rhythm yet. So it's very hard, you know, to execute throws when the pocket collapses on you. You know, and granted, there are times when he could get rid of the ball faster, so it's not all on the offensive line, of course. And sometimes the receivers aren't running the right route. But that being said, you know, there's a lot of things, a lot of adversity he's faced in his career. You know, he's never gotten the confidence to just be the guy. Every year he's working to win the job, you know, so he's never been truly anointed. Then last season, you know, he breaks his finger, and it was a very gruesome injury, you know, in the second game of the season. So he was gone for 4 games, and he came back, and I don't get the sense from people that I've talked to off the record that he was ever 100%. So you weren't really getting the best version of Justin last year. And last year was just a complete wash for several different reasons. And when you're the quarterback, you know, you get all the praise and get all the criticism. And I think in his case, he does get over-criticized for certain things that aren't necessarily all his fault, and also because he's walking in the shadow of Blake Bortles. But listen, you look at the last game, and granted, the passing game just did not ever come together. But right before Justin went out on that 35-yard scramble, you know, which first of all, he showed off that he has ability to have some speed, and he saw something in the field, he took it. You know, that's intellect. You have to make good decisions. You know, but I also feel like, you know, I wonder what would have happened if you were in the game. Would he have gotten into a rhythm? Because we've seen there's a pattern of UCF getting slow starts and then coming together in the second half. And also, this is a new offense. That's the other thing people have to remember, too. This is a new offense that everybody's had to adapt to. So it was the second game of the season. I wouldn't say, you know, Justin Holman, Nick Patty, you know, dump them now. It's the second game of the season with a new offense. It is going to require a little bit of patience. So I do think that, you know, he does kind of get a bad rap sometimes.
You know, that's a good point about following a great quarterback. It happens all the time. I mean, I remember when Chris Ricks followed Chris Winkie at Florida State. He wasn't very popular. Obviously, John Brantley followed Tebow.
Poor John Brantley. Oh, my God. Yeah. He just got the worst treatment.
Shannon Green. I think you've given me a column idea, Shannon. I like that. Can I use that?
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
I'm here to help.
There you have it. Shannon Green. Read all of her UCF coverage at OrlandoSentinel.com. You can also follow her at OS Knight. Shannon, we appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, Mike.